Discover how my incredible book launch became a touching moment of life-changing transformation. Jessica stood in front of the mirror, heart racing and palms sweaty. Today was the day. Her book, a collection of real stories about resilience, was finally about to be launched. The diner downstairs buzzed with excitement from locals who had watched her journey, the young single mother, who fought against every odd to carve her name in the literary world. Her breath caught in her throat when she imagined Jacob, her 10-year-old son, beaming with pride as she walked into the cafe. Today was a dream come true. But it was more than that. It was a moment of potential healing. As Jessica arrived at the diner, the aroma of fresh coffee mingled with laughter. Her friends, the true backbone of her journey, had decorated the place with fraying ribbons and colorful streamers. She could see how much they believed in her. Kelly, her lifelong friend, promised a speech that was sure to make everyone laugh and cry. "You've come so far, Jess." She cheered, and the warmth swelled in Jessica's heart. She couldn't shake the feeling of her father looming in the background, estranged and freshly returned from military service. Would there been anger? Regret? She felt a knot tighten in her stomach. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. But just when her heart soared, tragedy struck. Minutes before the crowd gathered, a scathing review appeared online. It picked apart her past, the stains of a life marred by family misunderstandings and financial hardship. Social media fed the frenzy, and Jessica felt the weight of judgment. Her smile faltered, knowing that these people loved her. Yet they deep-in fed a narrative that echoed her deepest fears. Were her words not enough? Did they see her as the woman who had once stumbled, rather than the one who now stood tall? With shaking hands, she took the stage, looking out at the sea of faces that reflected hope and skepticism. Raw emotion bubbled to the surface, and she opened her heart, revealing scars and triumphs. "I stand here not just as an author, but as a mother and a woman who has done it hard." As she spoke, the intimate silence wrapped around her like a warm hug. Connections began forming in the crowd, faces softened as they related to her struggles. Pride swirled within her chest as she noticed Jacob, eyes wide and sparkling, wholly invested in every word. Then, as if triggered by her revelations, her father stood in the back, tension rippling through the room. Would he reach out or walk away again? The air was thick with anticipation. Can we look past our own judgments? Can we rewrite our stories together? She pleaded. Her words hung in the air like a beacon of hope as hearts locked into the moment. Would they embrace the truth she laid bare? Or would they retreat back into the safety of stereotypes? With the rawness of emotion swirling like a storm, the pivotal question lingered: could Jessica find redemption, not only within herself, but in the tattered relationship with the man who once hurt her? The crowd held its breath, waiting for the next heartbeat in this raw, emotional whirlwind. Jessica's heart was thundering in her chest as she locked eyes with her father. The crowd around her seemed to fade, the chatter and laughter dimming to a hum. All she could see was him standing there, a silhouette of the past she fought so hard to escape. Memories rushed in like a flood, memories of anger and disappointment, times when she had needed him but felt utterly abandoned. "Come on, Jess," she whispered to herself, voice almost swallowed by the emotions swirling inside her. "You've got this." Gathering her strength, she took a deep breath, focusing instead on the faces in front of her, their eyes filled with empathy, some even shining with tears. They had come to support her, to hear her story. Holding on to that thought steadied her. "Something I learned on this journey is that we all have parts of ourselves we want to hide," she continued, her voice a mix of determination and vulnerability. "But the truth is, those parts don't define us. They're just chapters in our story." A slight murmur swept through the crowd, and Jessica's gaze flickered back to her father. He was still rigid, arms crossed, but something in his eyes softened. Was he finally beginning to understand her fight? A wave of hope washed over her, making her feel almost weightless. "I didn't write this book to glorify my struggles," she confessed, her voice stronger now, tinged with passion. I wrote it to show that we can rise above them, that we can redefine what it means to be resilient. She could see people nodding, the connection blooming between them like flowers breaking through concrete. With each revelation, she peeled back the layers of her past, reaching the core of who she was. There were good days intermingled with bad, moments of triumph but also profound failures. We are all a little messy, aren't we? She asked, and laughter rippled through the audience. But that's what makes us human. We are meant to overcome our messiness together. For the first time, her father uncrossed his arms, taking a tentative step forward. Did he really want to listen? Was he attempting to bridge a gap that had been yawning wide between them for years? As Jessica continued, the applause that erupted from the crowd embraced her like a warm blanket. Each clap was a confirmation, a reminder that her voice mattered. After all the battles, people were inspired, and she could feel their energy feeding her own spirit. Then, in the back of the diner, Jacob stood, eyes brimming, clearly emotional, and that sight sent a rush of warmth through Jessica. "You see me, Mom," he mouthed, and Jessica's heart melted. She had redefined the narrative for herself, and by doing so, perhaps she was showing him that he could write his own story too. In that electric moment, as she looked back at her father, the question lingered. Would they finally see eye to eye? Could this be a turning point not only for her but for the relationship that once seemed irreparable? Jessica was ready for whatever the answer would be, her heart open and vulnerable. But as the clapping subsided, she realized they weren't ready to end this moment yet. "Now," she said, her voice steady, "let us open it up. Anyone here want to share their story? We might just discover we're not so different after all." The room buzzed with anticipation, a place suddenly full of possibilities. Would someone take her up on that? Would her father speak? The air felt charged, expectation hanging like a tender thread ready to snap or weave anew. What happened next would change everything. The silence that fell over the diner was heavy with possibility. Jessica scanned the crowd, feeling the weight of their anticipation mingling with her own. It was a moment suspended in time, a breath just before the plunge. Then a hand shot up from the back, an older woman with silver hair tied into a bun, her eyes sparkling with what looked like both excitement and fear. "I'll go," she called out, her voice a little shaky yet warm. Jessica's heart swelled. "Please," she invited, stepping back to give her space. The woman stood up, clutching a well-worn notebook to her chest. "My name is Eleanor," she started, her voice trembling but gaining strength with every word. "I've been a teacher for over 30 years. My students come from all walks of life," but she paused, a tear spilling down her cheek. "Some come from homes where no one believes in them. I share my own story with them, how I almost dropped out of school, how a teacher took time to see me and encouraged me to keep going." Jessica felt her breath hitch. This was what she had hoped for. But it was still awe-inspiring to watch the courage seep through the walls of the woman's heart. The room was enthralled, holding its breath as if afraid to interrupt the fragile beauty unfolding before them. Eleanor continued, "I've failed more times than I can count. But I've learned that failure doesn't define us. It teaches us, shapes us. I want my students to know they're not alone." The cheers that erupted were spontaneous, echoing around the diner. People on the edges of their seats shouted affirmations. Jessica's father shifted nervously, his fingers flexing as if he was wrestling with his own story, his own regrets. Could he relate to Eleanor? Would he step forward too? She desperately hoped so, longing for the breakthrough they both needed. After Eleanor finished, applause reverberated, and Jessica seized the moment. "Thank you, Eleanor. You're a beacon for those students. Who's next?" Silence stretched again, but slowly another hand went up. It was a young man, possibly in his late 20s, with tattoos snaking up his arms. "Me," he said. "I have a story too." His voice was softer than expected, a vulnerability in his gaze. "I grew up in a rough neighborhood. Everyone told me I was destined to fail like they had. But I always wanted more. I started writing poetry, stories. They saved me." Jessica's heart pounded. Here was yet another soul unearthing their truth. "You give others hope," she said, encouraging him as he shared more of his journey, struggles, setbacks, and ultimately resilience. Around the diner, heads nodded and tissues appeared. Unashamed tears glistened under the diner's fluorescent lights, binding the room in a shared catharsis. As each story surfaced, Jessica noticed her father now leaning forward, his expression shifting from uncertainty to contemplation. And then, just as Jessica felt the electricity of this moment climaxing, her father rose. Jessica's heart skipped a beat, every other noise in the diner fading as if he had suddenly cast a spell. He cleared his throat, glancing at the faces turned toward him, a mixture of surprise and palpable hope. I have never been one to speak about my past, he started, the words heavy and choked with what felt like decades of unspoken truths. But I need to say this. I failed you, Jessica. As a father, as a man. I didn't recognize your pain when I should have. Jessica's chest tightened, and she shared a look with Jacob, who had found a seat beside her, eagerly hopeful, yet holding on to his own blend of anxiety. Time is fleeting, her father continued, emotion spilling over. I want to try. Not just for you but for myself. I don't want this mess we created. I'm ready to confront the past. The effect of his words was instant. Gasps mingled with soft sobs around the diner, and several people instinctively reached for one another, the power of reconciliation weaving through them. Would this be the moment of redemption she dreamt of? The unanswered questions flooded Jessica's mind as she stood frozen in hope and disbelief that the past could be rewritten. And just like that, the diner held its breath again, like one heart beating, waiting for her response. Would she take that leap of faith? Would they both step forward together? As she opened her mouth to speak, that uncertain but hopeful feeling washed over her again, the possibilities stretching out like an open road. Would they truly find their way back to one another? Jessica felt time slow as she stared at her father, the weight of his words heavy in the air. Her heart raced, each thump echoing the conflicting emotions crashing inside her: hope, fear, doubt, love. She glanced at the faces around her, their expressions a mix of encouragement and empathy, urging her to respond. Dad, she began, the word hanging between them like a delicate thread. What are you saying? His gaze pierced through the noise, raw and sincere. I'm saying I want to be better, Jessica. I want to understand. I need to hear your story, the real one. Not just the one I've helped create by being absent. Her breath hitched. This was it. This was the moment she had hoped for but never believed would come. The crowd leaned in, every man and woman holding their collective breath, suspended in a moment of potential healing. Jessica searched her father's face, searching for the courage he had summoned. I'm scared, she admitted, her voice thick with tears. I've built walls to protect myself from the pain. I don't know how to come back from this. Neither do I, he replied softly. But I believe we can try together. There was a quiet determination in his eyes, an openness she hadn't seen before. Could they rebuild that what had crumbled when she was just a girl? She felt Jacob's gentle hand on her knee, anchoring her, reminding her that she didn't have to do this alone. I need you to know, she said, her voice steadying with each word. I felt alone for so long. I needed you to see me and to hear me. The silence that followed felt like a revelation, as if others in the room were leaning into their own stories, drawing strength from hers and her father's unfolding moment. Eleanor, still standing strong, chimed in. I think we all need to find that connection among our struggles. That is where healing lives. A wave of murmurs rippled through the diner, the wave of shared pain becoming a reminder that they were not alone in their journeys. Her father nodded, eyes shimmering. Then let us share, Jess. Let us share everything, no matter how messy or painful it is. What made us turn away from each other? Because I thought I was never enough, she burst out. It was cathartic. Not as a daughter, not in any way. I felt like a failure in your eyes. The admission hung thickly in the air. Her father's expression softened, and he moved closer, as if bridging the distance that had felt insurmountable. You never were a failure to me. I was the one who failed to see your worth, he said deeply. Jessica's tears broke free, cascading down her cheeks as she allowed his words to sink in. Impossibly, something shifted inside her. Maybe this was precisely how transformation began, not with grand gestures, but with raw honesty instead. She could feel the heartbeat of the diner, resonant with shared experiences and connections. Then unexpectedly, the young man with tattoos stood up again, his voice trembling but powerful. You know, we all hide behind something. I used to think my past was my prison, but sharing it with strangers made me free. It's liberating. Tears glistened in his eyes too as he continued. If it's okay, I'd like to share my story with everyone again. It's been a long time since I've felt listened to. Jessica's heart soared and swelled with his vulnerability. She could feel energy pulsing through the room. More hands shot up, each person eager to join in this movement of healing. The moment spun into a beautiful tapestry of voices, fears unwrapped, dreams unveiled, and hope interwoven. As she prepared to take her turn, Jessica glanced at her father, who had silently leaned closer, his encouraging nod igniting her courage. But then a thought pierced through her resolve. What if, in this moment of connection, someone spoke up about the hardest truths? Would they find strength, or would the room shatter again? Suddenly the atmosphere changed. The door of the diner swung open, letting in a cold rush of wind and a figure nearly obscured by shadow. Jessica squinted as the newcomer stepped into the light, and her heart dropped. It was someone from her past, the ghost of another chapter she thought she had closed. What did they want now? Confused whispers erupted among the crowd as eyes turned, breaking the moment of fragile unity. Would this person bring chaos or clarity to the gathering storm of shared stories? The figure stepped further into the light, revealing a familiar face that twisted Jessica's stomach into knots. It was Alex, her childhood best friend, the one who had vanished without a word when she needed him most. His presence felt like a cold breeze, interrupting the warmth she had begun to feel with her dad and everyone else in the diner. "Jessica," he said, his voice shaky yet steady, as if he were bracing for impact. The murmurs hushed, all eyes pinned on the unexpected visitor. "I didn't know you were here. I didn't mean to interrupt." His words faltered, but he took a step closer. "I heard about the gathering and I needed to come. I need to apologize." Jessica felt her breath hitch. Apologize? After all this time? Why now? She managed, the heat of her anger mixing with the rush of nostalgia. After everything that happened, why would you just show up like this? Her heart raced, the memories of countless afternoons spent dreaming about the future flooded her mind. They had woven unbreakable bonds back then, or so she thought. "I was afraid, Jess," he admitted, fingers twisting nervously around the edge of his worn hoodie. "I thought leaving would make things easier for you. I was wrong. I let my fear speak for me, and I see now how much I hurt you." Jessica could see the guilt etched on his face, the same face that had always been so full of light and laughter. She felt the weight of the moment shift again, the potential for another unraveling or a chance to heal. Before she could respond, Eleanor's voice broke through the tension. "Fear can keep us from the ones we love," she said softly. "But facing our past bravely can lead to new beginnings." The room stewed in silence, contemplating the weight of her words. Jessica couldn't tell if she wanted to scream or break down into tears. It all felt too heavy. "You think that just showing up makes it all okay?" Alex opened his mouth to respond, but instead he seemed to wrestle with his own emotions. "No, it doesn't. I can't unravel the hurt I've caused or mend the years we lost. But I want to try. To be here now." A wave of mixed feelings surged through her. How could she accept this? Could she find it within herself to forgive someone who had once made her feel so abandoned? "I didn't know I needed closure until this moment," Jessica whispered, heart pounding. "It feels unreal that you're here, but I'm not sure if I can meet you halfway." "Jessica." Her father's gentle voice brought her focus back. "You are in control here. Whatever you decide, it's your voice that matters most." The warmth of his support settled over her like a heavy blanket. She spotted Jacob's reassuring nod from across the table, reminding her of the strength and vulnerability. But sharing this moment with Alex felt like diving into a deep, dark ocean. Would it bring the clarity she was yearning for? Or would it drown her in fear again? As the air thickened with uncertainty, Jessica understood that this moment could only unfold if she dared to take a leap. Still, something deep inside questioned what it could mean for everyone else. Would her acceptance pave the way for new beginnings? Just then, another voice piped up from the back of the diner. "You're not alone, Jessica, whatever you decide." It was the tattooed young man, his eyes shimmering with empathy. "We're all here to support you." The collective energy in the diner swirled around her, the warmth urging her forward even as the past loomed like a storm cloud. With the weight of so many stories hanging in the air, what part of her story was she willing to embrace? Jessica stood frozen, the world swirling around her in a dizzying haze. The chatter of the diner faded, leaving only the echo of Alex's admission ringing in her ears. Her heart raced as she weighed his apology against the years of silence and heartache. Why did you come back now? Her voice, barely a whisper, cracked with both disbelief and a flicker of hope. She crossed her arms tightly, as if guarding herself against the flood of emotions. I wanted to face you, Alex replied, his gaze unwavering. The sincerity in his eyes pulled at something inside her. Maybe there was a chance for them to find a way through the darkness together. Just as she considered this, her dad leaned in closer. Jess, whatever you're feeling is okay. This is your moment. His words were steady, grounding her amidst the chaos. The room buzzed with silent anticipation. Everyone was waiting for her to decide. Jessica's chest was tight as she thought about all the ways Alex had deserted her, and how she fought to pick up the pieces. Yet the pain that had once felt insurmountable now mixed with a strange curiosity. Could there be a chance for something new? Taking a deep breath, she finally said, if we're going to talk, it has to be real. No more running away. Alex nodded, relief and gratitude flooding his features. I can do that. She felt the warmth of eyes around her, encouragement, understanding, a community that had gathered to bear witness. Jessica glanced at Eleanor and then at Jacob. Even the tattooed young man's reassuring smile buoyed her heart. Okay, she continued, her voice gaining strength. Why did you really leave? What could have been so terrifying? Alex swallowed hard, the shadows of the past playing across his face. I was afraid of what I might become, who I was turning into. I thought if I disappeared, you'd be better off without me. I was wrong. I see that now. His vulnerability shifted something in Jessica. Despite the betrayals, there was something painfully honest about his confession. It struck a chord deep within, revealing a slice of the fear that had once governed her life too. I get it, she admitted. But running doesn't solve anything. I learned that the hard way. A hushed acknowledgement washed through the diner. It was as if they were all sharing this moment with her, standing at the precipice with Alex. It was a chance to rewrite their story. One filled with risk and uncertainty, but also with possibility. What if we could start over? Alex's voice trembled, but there was a spark, an undercurrent of hope in his eyes. The thought sent a jolt through her. Could they build something new, something stronger than before? But doubts lingered. What if I can't forgive you? The weight of her words loomed between them. It wasn't just about forgiving Alex. It was about forgiving herself for all that had come undone. I'm willing to face that too, he said quietly. Whatever it takes. As the diner filled with hopeful energy, a flood of emotions washed over her. The warmth that had once enveloped her as a child now began to wade back into her heart, creating an opening within the cracks of her defenses. Jessica glanced around the room, absorbing the eyes filled with encouragement, longing, and hope. Yet, even as optimism began to unfurl, the questions loomed larger. Was she ready to dive back into the depths of this friendship? Together? She finally asked, heart racing in anticipation of an answer. Together, Alex echoed, his voice steady. As his gaze held hers, a realization hit her. She wouldn't just be letting him back in. She would be choosing to let herself heal too. But as the weight of that decision settled in, a new sense of urgency crept through her mind. What would happen if she faltered again? Before she could voice these thoughts, the diner door swung open, and an unexpected figure stepped inside. Jessica's heart sank with unease. The past wasn't done with her yet. Would this new arrival help or hinder her tentative steps toward reconciliation? Jessica's breath caught in her throat as she recognized the new arrival. Sarah, her high school best friend, stepped inside the diner, her eyes scanning the room until they landed on Jessica. In that instant, time paused. Memories flooded back, laughing after school, whispered secrets under the stars, and that night when everything started to unravel. Jess, Sarah called out, genuine delight radiating from her. Jessica's heart twisted painfully at the sound, echoing the happiness they once shared. But the joy was immediately overshadowed by the tension swirling around Alex. Would Sarah even remember the complexities of their intertwined past? Hey Sarah, Jessica managed, forcing a smile even as her stomach churned. Complicated, didn't he begin to cover it? As Sarah approached, excitement faded into apprehension. Jessica wished she could summon the strength to embrace Sarah openly, but fear held her back. How would she explain everything that had transpired? Is everything all right? Sarah's smile faltered, sensing the weighty atmosphere. Yeah, just catching up, Jessica replied, her voice barely above a whisper. She glanced at Alex, who stood awkwardly across the table, anxiety etched on his features. Sarah's gaze shifted curiously between the two of them. You're back, aren't you? She said, directing her comment to Alex. I heard a rumor, but I didn't think it was true. Yeah, I'm back, Alex said, a hint of determination in his voice as he squared his shoulders, meeting her scrutiny head-on. Ooh, okay. Sarah's eyes widened. I guess that's pretty huge. She turned back to Jessica, her expression softening. Do you want to talk about it? Jessica hesitated, glancing at her dad, who offered a subtle nod of encouragement. The little girl she used to be wanted to run into Sarah's arms and find comfort in the memories they had forged. But the weight of Alex's presence anchored her in place, reminding her of the complicated threads they had yet to untangle. Maybe I'm still working things out, she said finally, struggling to hold Sarah's gaze. This is all a lot. Totally understand, Sarah said, briefly resting a reassuring hand on Jessica's shoulder. Then her expression shifted, anticipation sparking in her eyes. But what happens now? What are you going to do? Jessica's heart raced. Would she tell Sarah about the promise they just made? The hope flickering in Alex's eyes? She wanted to say they were moving forward, a new chapter, but her own uncertainty wrapped around her like a heavy cloak. I'm not sure, she admitted, glancing back at Alex, who watched her awaited response with bated breath. Just be honest, Jess, Alex urged gently, his voice steady as he met her gaze. No more masks, right? Sarah raised an eyebrow, a hint of worry crossing her face. What are we talking about here? It sounds serious. Jessica felt the room closing in, tension rising. She needed to decide. Should she lay it all out there, her doubts, her hopes, her fears? Should she open herself up to potential hurt, or retreat into the comfort of silence, letting the moment slip away? I have to figure out if I can really forgive him, she finally said, the weight of her admission pressing heavily on her shoulders. Sarah nodded, her expression shifting to one of sympathy and understanding. I get that. It's not easy. But even as comfort flickered in their connection, something deeper gnawed within Jessica. Would she lose it all if she stepped forward? Or would she find the strength she'd always been looking for? Before she could dive deeper into her thoughts, the chatter around her dimmed, her eyes catching Alex's once more. Whatever comes next, I'll be with you, he said softly. As uncertainty loomed like a storm cloud overhead, a sudden realization gripped Jessica. She stood at a crossroads, and every road seemed just as daunting as the last. But before she could respond, the sound of the diner door creaking open again cut through her thoughts, and her heart dropped. The familiar figure stepping inside sent a chill down her spine. Maybe the past was going to bring more than just memories, it was pointing toward something that would force them all to confront the truth together. Jessica's heart raced as she recognized the newcomer. It was Danny, the boy from high school whose laughter had once echoed through her days. His presence stirred a mixture of joy and dread. He gave off an air of confidence as he sauntered in, but Jessica could see the flicker of confusion in his eyes as he spotted her, Sarah, and Alex all standing together. Wow, talk about a reunion, Danny said, his voice warm yet sharp, sensing the tension like a storm on the horizon. He strolled over, hands in his pockets, each step carrying the weight of memories better left unturned. Danny, Sarah exclaimed, a new spark igniting her eyes. It's been ages. How've you been? Danny exchanged pleasantries, but Jessica felt a chill creeping up her spine. Would he ask about the last time they all saw each other? The shattered trust? The heartbreak? The secrets that had changed everything? What is happening? He asked, glancing between Jessica and Alex. Expectation hung in the air. Just catching up, Jessica replied again, forcing a smile that felt heavy and strained. Her mind flicked back to those days when they were all inseparable, unaware that innocence could shatter so easily. Looks like you guys have a lot to discuss, Danny said, a knowing smirk on his face, trying to lighten the mood, but it only deepened the gravity of the moment. Yeah, you could say that, Alex interjected, taking a step forward. Some of us have some things to clear up. No kidding, Danny said, looking directly at Alex. I heard you were back in town. How's that going? Jessica felt the conversation drift toward dangerous waters. How long could they keep avoiding the truth? There it was, looming right in front of them, a past filled with broken promises and unresolved emotions. Sarah lifted an eyebrow. Jess, do you want to tell him? It might help. Jessica's stomach twisted. Did she want to dredge up old stories? Would sharing them risk reopening wounds better left to heal? Maybe we need to address why we're all here together, Jessica finally said, her voice trembling slightly. Because she paused, swallowing hard, because I think it's time we all face what happened. Together. The diner felt as if it held its breath, the usual clamor fading to a hush. All eyes were on her, waiting for her to unveil the tangled emotions hidden beneath their surface. Okay, Alex said quietly, stepping closer. Let us be honest. We've been pretending long enough. Jessica met his gaze, a surge of courage washing over her. As the anxiety ebbed, she could feel the fragments of her heart beginning to shift. When I think about the past, I see so much pain. I know I've avoided talking about it, and I'm scared, but we can't keep pretending that everything is fine. Sarah nodded, her expression earnest and empathetic. We're here for you, Jess. Whatever you need to say, we'll listen. Jessica took a shaky breath. It hurt when you left, Alex. But I realize now I've been holding on to that hurt. As she spoke, she could sense the tension around them shifting, and together they hovered on the brink of vulnerability. Danny, typically the joker in their group, became uncharacteristically serious. We all need to face our past. Sometimes it means risk, but it also means growth. Together. Just then, the familiar scent of fried food wafted through the diner, momentarily grounding her. Maybe we can let go of our grudges and build something better. Can we really do that? Jessica felt an ache in her chest as she searched for answers in their eyes. I think we can, Alex said, a mixture of hope and uncertainty in his voice. But what if the past is too heavy? Jessica questioned, her heart pounding in her chest. The flicker of hope that had ignited within her began to dim as doubt crept in. They could try, but was it enough? Could they truly leave behind all those haunting memories? Before anyone could answer, the diner door swung open again, bringing in a rush of cold air, and a tall figure stepped in. Jessica froze, her heart racing. This felt like a turning point, but would it be for better or for worse? The truth was close, yet just out of reach, and the stakes had never been higher. What kind of revelations awaited them? The door swung shut with a resounding thud, and in that instant time seemed to hang like a delicate thread in the air. Jessica strained to catch a glimpse of the newcomer, her heart racing harder than ever. Who is that? Sarah whispered, her eyes wide with curiosity and some lingering dread. Jessica felt the same knot of anxiety tighten in her stomach again. It was Claire, another friend from their past, someone whose story was intertwined with theirs like tangled vines. Claire's presence brought back a rush of memories, a summer they all thought would last forever, filled with laughter, secrets, and a fateful betrayal. Claire moved through the diner like she owned the place, her confident stride cutting through the tension. Jessica swallowed hard, her mind racing. Did Claire have any idea of the storm that had brewed since she left? A flicker of recognition crossed Claire's face as her eyes landed on the group. For a moment they all simply stood still, caught in the gravity of the past. Hey everyone, Claire called out, her voice warm yet laced with uncertainty. What's going on? Danny's expression was half a smile, half a grimace. Looks like the gang's all here, he chuckled, though the tension made it sound forced. We were just about to have a heart-to-heart. Claire raised an eyebrow, shoving her hands into the pockets of her jeans. A heart-to-heart? Sounds serious. Jessica could hardly breathe. This couldn't be happening. Could Claire possibly understand the weight of all the unresolved emotions in the room? Would she leave like Alex did? Would she stay and face whatever demons loomed ahead? Maybe it is serious, Jessica managed to say, her voice tremulous. We've been avoiding the truth for too long. A shadow crossed Claire's face, a mixture of acknowledgement and regret. I can't say I'm surprised. I heard about a few things from a distance. Her eyes flicked to Alex, and Jessica could sense the old unspoken tension flare up in the air. Look, Claire, Alex started, his voice steady but filled with unease. We need to talk about everything that happened. About you, about all of us. Claire shrank slightly at his words, her bravado faltering. I didn't want to come back and dredge all this up. I thought it would be easier to forget. Jessica's heart sank. But forgetting didn't work for any of us, did it? Pain doesn't just disappear. We can't heal if we're not willing to face it. A profound silence enveloped the table as Claire studied Jessica's earnest eyes. For a moment it felt like they were back in high school, standing on the precipice of adulthood, waiting for someone to take the leap. I know I hurt you, Claire finally said, her voice softer, every syllable heavy with remorse. I didn't mean to. Maybe I was just scared. The vulnerability in her tone surprised everyone, making it impossible to remain indifferent. Jessica could feel the dam within her begin to crack. We all were scared, Claire. But maybe being scared means we care. Maybe it's worth talking about, worth fighting for. Danny shifted uncomfortably, glancing between them, sensing the escalating emotions. What if we talked about the past the way it was? Maybe we can find a way through this together. Jessica felt a spark of hope and dread. Could they actually find some closure? Or would the past wrap around them like a noose, squeezing tighter until they couldn't breathe? Before anyone could respond, a commotion erupted outside the diner, a shout followed by a crash. The heaviness in the air was suddenly punctured by a jarring reality, turning all their attention toward the door once more. What could possibly be happening out there? Was the past about to collide with their present in a way none of them expected? Jessica felt her heartbeat quicken again, this time laced with both curiosity and fear. The door burst open, letting in a gust of frosty wind that danced wildly around the diner. A young man stumbled inside, his face flushed and eyes wide with panic. You've got to help. There's been an accident. Shock rippled through the crowd. Jessica felt the air shift, the weight of past grievances suddenly lifted. Fear gripped her heart. Whatever had just happened, it was real life and death. Everything they had been avoiding now thrust to the forefront. What do you mean? Someone shouted, rising to their feet. The diner buzzed with urgent murmurs as people instinctively leaned closer, tension clinging to their every word. The bridge. It's collapsed. A few cars have gone off. They need people to help. He gasped. Time seemed to halt. The realization hit them. All their worries about the past faded into the background, overshadowed by the immediacy of the present. Let us go. We can't just sit here, Claire urged, already moving toward the door, her earlier bravado replaced by a sense of purpose. Jessica watched as her friend sprang into action, fueled by adrenaline. Suddenly, the possibility of gathering their scattered lives into something meaningful was within reach. Jessica felt a cascade of emotions: fear, determination, and a flicker of hope. This was the moment she had been waiting for. A chance to unite not only with her friends but also with her estranged father and Alex. She turned to them, her heart pounding. We can pick up pieces together. Is everyone ready? A chorus of nods flooded the room. It was time to show that love outweighs their past struggles. As they raced out of the diner, the world around them transformed into a whirl of sound and action. Jessica could feel her father's hand clutching hers tightly, an anchor amid the chaos. They reached the scene beneath the cracked bridge, a swirl of emergency vehicles and frantic voices creating a symphony of urgency. Incredible, palpable pain and fear loomed over the area. Without hesitation, Jessica joined the cluster of first responders and volunteers, her heart pushing her forward. She caught a glance of Jacob standing beside her dad, his expression a mix of fear and determination. The sight of him filled her with the strength she had been searching for all along. Ignoring the trepidation knotting her stomach, Jessica approached a group of people struggling to help an injured driver trapped in a vehicle. She felt connected to everyone there as they all faced an overwhelming challenge: life together, side by side, their differences washed away by the tide of humanity. I'm here, she shouted to the others. Let us lift the car. On three. The voices around her joined, and as they collectively heaved, new bonds were forged. Laughter and relieved cries erupted as the driver was freed. In that moment they were a mosaic of kindness, each piece shining brighter together. As the adrenaline began to fade, Jessica glanced over to the crowd gathered, her friends amidst the frenzy. Alex locked eyes with her, a smile growing across his face, the shadows of their earlier conversations lifting as he rushed to help another victim. Claire nodded at her, a silent acknowledgement that spoke louder than words. Just beside them, her father stood unguarded, tears streaming down his face, a testament to love reignited and promises reshaped. When the sirens finally faded and the sun dipped low on the horizon, Jessica turned to her family, her heart at last feeling whole. This isn't just a moment, She breathed, the weight of her journey settling peacefully. This is proof. We heal together. Our past doesn't dictate our present or future. The crowd cheered as stories interwove again, each breath filled with triumph. A celebration of emotions from victory to sorrow. They were not just individuals healing. They were a community being reborn, stronger than ever. In that moment, Jessica realized healing was not one solitary road she needed to navigate. It was a collective journey. With her new beginning solidified in action, she felt truly alive, ready to embrace every twist and turn ahead. As they left the chaos of the scene behind and returned to the diner, the air buzzed with excitement. Old wounds had finally been laid bare, but instead of sorrow, what had emerged was a promise, a redefined future sparkling with limitless potential. Jessica looked around at the faces she adored and knew that healing is messy, but they would forge ahead together, weaving new stories from the threads of their vibrant past, each chapter more colorful than the last. You need to subscribe now. Don't miss a single moment of our upcoming exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep the heart of this channel beating strong. Comment below your reactions, feelings, and thoughts about this journey of transformation. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformative tale. Don't wait not even one more second to show your support for the community that rallies together.